Brad Stevens is doing his little dance around the luxury tax. What's going on, Celtics fans? You're watching Celtics Today by Chat Sports, and the C's just signed 2 players to their roster to meet the NBA's criteria. We're going to break down who these players are and how Boston navigates the rest of this season while staying below the luxury tax. First, though, make sure you are subscribed to the channel because this is why you subscribe here to Celtics Today. Whenever they make moves, we're going to be bringing you guys videos, whether it's a super small move like these 10-day contracts that they signed or a player that they signed to a standard deal the rest of the season. No matter the move, how big or small, you're going to hear about it here at Celtics Today, so lock us in and hit that subscribe button right now. All right, so Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype saying the Celtics plan to sign Dalano Banton to a 10-day deal. Familiar face for Celtics fans. Banton, just completed a 10-day deal with the Clippers. The 26-year-old guard managed 6.7 points in 14.5 minutes in 5 seasons combined with the Raptors, Celtics, Blazers, and Clippers. A 2021 second-round pick. If you didn't know Delano Banton before, we'll tell you a little bit about him now. Out of Nebraska by the Toronto Raptors, but he bounced around between Toronto and their G League affiliate, and did the same thing with the Portland Trailblazers as well. Had some time with the Dallas Mavericks, Texas Legends G League affiliate there, but he did play 22 games with the Celtics during their championship run in 2023-2024. If you guys remember that iconic airplane photo of the team on the team plane, Banton was in that piece. Now, did he get a championship ring? I was looking around the internet because I kind of forgot, and it doesn't look like he got a championship ring with the C's here, but hey, if he's signed for the rest of the season, he could be in store for another piece of hardware here if he remains a Boston Celtic and they end up winning a title here. Now, Ben is a guy who I'd say has gotten some opportunities throughout the league, and I don't think he should be one of these guys who's hovering around these 10-day deals. He's been pretty solid, especially back in 2023-2024. He played okay in spot minutes for the Celtics, but then once he was traded away to Portland later in the season, he really played well, man. Like he was averaging 16 a game for the Trailblazers back during that time, and then the following year in 2024, 2025, he was pretty good for the Trailblazers. Averaged like 8 points a game, played 60 plus for Portland in that season, and in that 2024 campaign where he played about 30 games for him, he averaged 16, 5, and 4. Like I think he even put a triple-double up in one of those instances. So if he is called upon to play in the Celtics lineup, I am very comfortable with Delano Banton being out there as a big guard, can handle the rock. Like he can be an emergency ball handler for you in a pinch, and he's long enough to be able to be a switchable defender. Like he's not going to blow you away in any category. Like he doesn't have an elite trait, I would say, but he is good at pretty much everything. And if he has to get out there on the court, I'm not going to be too upset about it. But I don't think that's going to be the case, right? He's brought in here because he's familiar with the organization. He is well-liked in the locker room. He's not going to be a guy who's rocking the boat. It's not like Chris Paul being brought into the Clippers and, next thing you know, he wants to just instill his entire ideology and change the philosophy of the team. No, Dalano Banton is just going to be along for the ride here. It could only just be these next 10 days that he's a part of the roster. So I think he's just going to be happy to be getting a couple more paychecks here toward the end of this regular season. I'm sure he'll sign a couple 10 days elsewhere for the days that he's not going to be a Boston Celtic thereafter. Now, also, the Boston end up signing John Tonje, the player that they've had on a 2-way contract here for the past couple of weeks since making a deal with the Utah Jazz for him, and now he joins the Celtics again on a 10-day contract. He's been a standout with the Maine Celtics through the 2 games that he's played there. He was a second-team All-American for the Wisconsin Badgers in 2025. The guy was just a straight bucket at the collegiate level. In 2025, he was drafted in the second round at pick 53 by the Utah Jazz, and then earlier this season, at the trade deadline, he was acquired by Boston in exchange for Chris Boucher and a second-round pick. Now, it said he was a standout with the Maine Celtics. He's only played in 2 games, but he's had 50 points across those 2 games. The guy can absolutely put it in the cup. But even more so than Delano Banton, I don't think John Tonje is going to play very much for this roster. I honestly doubt that we ever see him play a meaningful minute. Maybe he comes in a situation where they're up by 40 at the end of the game or something like that, but I wouldn't anticipate Tonje making that big of an impact. And if you remember what Brad Stevens said about filling out this roster, well, it would make a lot of sense. We'll ultimately fill a roster spot with at least one more ball handler and then see how the rest of the needs play themselves out. Well, Banton's your ball handler there. Whoever it is will not be somebody that we're going to ask to come in and be part of the everyday rotation when we're fully healthy. At the end of the day, guys, these were financially driven moves by the Boston Celtics. They're moves that Brad Stevens is making in order to stay under the luxury tax and avoid those repeater tax penalties, as Boston has been a tax team over the last few seasons. Pretty plain and simple. It's the reason they didn't sign these guys 10 days ago, because they're waiting as long as they possibly can so these contracts get prorated and they're a little bit cheaper than they would have signed previously. We'll break down more about this in just a second. First, though, grade the signings of Delano Banton and John Tonje for me down in the comments section. A, B, C, D, or F. What are your thoughts on these two 10-day contracts signed by the Boston Celtics? All right, next we'll talk about how the Brad Stevens navigates the rest of the season in terms of ducking below the tax, because the Celtics are literally less than $1 million away from luxury tax, so they have to be very, very meticulous with how they manage this roster. We'll tell you how they do it in just a moment. First, though, I got to tell you guys about our sponsor on the show, as this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Shoot your shot with PrizePicks and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. That's right. PrizePicks is now giving you $50 in lineups when you sign up and play your first $5. Just use our promo code CLNS, you can see in the bottom right of your screen, to get it. PrizePicks makes every dunk, every dime, and every board that much more exciting. So don't miss the chance to get started on America's #1 app for sports picks at PrizePicks. All you guys got to do is download the app and pick 2 to 6 players, more or less on their projected stats. And you can win up to 2,000 times your money in one single lineup. I got an example of a lineup to show you guys here, because the Celtics are playing the Warriors in tonight's action out of the All-Star break, and I got Derek White more than 16.5 points. I got Guy Santos and Nikola Vucevic to have more than 13.5 rebounds combined. You can even have combination stats on PrizePicks. And Kristaps Porzingis, an old friend, I'm going less than 12.5 points for him in this game. The debut, I'm sure it's going to be a minutes restriction. He hasn't played in a long time either, so I'm going less on Porzingis in his Warriors debut. You can tail my picks or fade my picks. Just do it at PrizePicks and take advantage of all the deals that they have. Sometimes they're offering flash deals where they discount stat projections, or Taco Tuesday where they discount stat projections. Or they have early payout features now, where if your lineup gets off to a hot start, you can cash out those winnings before the games even finish. So don't waste any more time and download the app today. PrizePicks, and use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, so how do the Celtics navigate the salary cap and the luxury tax here for the rest of this season? Well, after the signings of Delano Banton and John Tonje, it's going to cost the Celtics about $205,000. Now, keep in mind, they are about $840,000 away from the luxury tax line. So they can't go over that, or else they're going to get hit with fat repeater tax penalties. Delano Banton, because he's a veteran on this 10-day deal, is going to cost about $132,000. John Tonje, $73,000, because he is a rookie. So rookies signing these 10-day deals, guys who bounce back and forth from the G League, and guys coming off two-way contracts and whatnot, they're going to cost a lot less than veterans like Banton. So you spend about $205,000 there. That leaves you with $637,000 to work with for the rest of the season. We're getting tighter and tighter. So what's next for Boston here? Well, the Celtics will let both of these 10-day contracts expire, and then they're going to end up waiting, because the team has 14 days after those contracts are all up to operate below 14 players. So they're going to wait that time out, and then they'll probably end up signing 2 more 10-day deals. And then after that ends up going down, they'll probably convert one of these guys to a standard contract for the rest of the season, and that will be how it all gets shaken out. Maybe they add a 15th guy for the playoffs, because that does not affect your salary cap. Keith Smith, the best capologist that I know on the interwebs, he joined the Locked On Celtics podcast and said the following about what they might do here after these 10 days. There is a caveat to this, Keith says. Max Shulga, because he was drafted by the Celtics, would actually count on the roster at the rookie minimum because they drafted him. So that would only be $73,000 like Tonje on a 10-day, or a rest of the season signing right now would cost about $400,000. But I think they wait a little bit on that. I think you're going to see the Celtics convert him to a rest of season deal, because that will take up one of the roster spots on as cheap as it possibly can type of contract. Okay, so one spot is likely to be filled for the rest of the season, but there's even more work to do after that. I don't anticipate Max Shulga being an impact player or anything like that. He'd be on the roster already if that was the case. But after you sign Max Shulga, and it's not going to be for $400,000, because again, that's what it would cost right now. If you prorate it even further down the line, so if you do these 10 days and then another set of 10 days You could even get him for cheaper. Here's how Boston stays under luxury tax for the rest of the season. You wait the 14 days to fill the 2 more spots after the current 10-day deals expire. You would convert Max Shulga for the remainder of the season, which costs $226.3 thousand. You would do the same exact thing for John Tonje. So then you're looking at what? $452.6 thousand. That's less than the $637 that they had left, which leaves Boston with about $184,000 of wiggle room. And they don't even have to fill that last spot if they don't want to. But if they did, they could sign Ron Harper Jr. or another veteran for the postseason because it is not going to count against the Celtics salary cap. He will get a playoff share, but it will not count against Boston's cap. And look, Ron Harper Jr., I think you may deserve it, right? Like, you may want that guy to be semi-available in the postseason. He's played some solid minutes for you this season, and he's not going to count towards the cap, which is going to be paramount for Boston staying under the tax. Look, guys, like, Boston is in a good spot. They have smart people in the front office. They know what they're doing, and this has all been meticulously planned out since they got under the luxury tax after the trade deadline. So no need to worry here. They're going to do all that math, and they're going to do basically what I just told you guys. Like, there isn't really much wiggle room outside of the possibilities that we've already listed for Boston to go out there and do. So expect those moves to be made here over the coming weeks. We will keep you guys tapped in on them as they do. And then we will see this guy. Soon enough, folks, we will see the return of Jason Tatum. The Celtics will get their guy back, and hopefully they will have an NBA Finals ceiling when Zero's back in the lineup. What do you guys think? Can the Celtics win the NBA Finals with Jason Tatum returning in just a couple of weeks? Y for yes and for no. Be honest for me. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section, as they still have a chance to hit that 40-20 rule. Better beat Golden State tonight, and they'll be 4 games away. That will do it for today's show. Make sure you give me a follow over on Twitter at Tyler J. Smith. 2 H's because the name's common, but I am not. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel as well. YouTube.com/Celtics TV for the latest and greatest on your season, the rest of the season, into the postseason, into the offseason, all year long. We'll see you guys next time. And as always, let's go C's.